Hello, survivors. Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. This is a special State of Decay 2 stream. It's at an unusual time, and it's going to last for 2 whole hours because we have got so many people we want to talk to. Usually, we just invite 2 to maybe 3 people into this stream to talk, do deep dives into their contributions to the latest update. But this update is so huge, we've got so many people to talk to, we couldn't do it on our normal streams. So we decided to do this launch day celebration where we're going to have over a dozen people coming through to talk about their contributions to Update 26. So the first folks that I think we should introduce are Valkyrie Entertainment. Actually, let's start with Andrew Lund III. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hello, everyone. I'm an environment artist. I've been working on State of Decay 2 now for a minute. My background's in architecture, so it's kind of things that I like. Environment, architecture, foliage.
That is highly appropriate, yeah, because we had a lot of buildings to put together in this map. We've also got, joining us here, we've got Brian Rouleau. Brian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brian Rouleau. I'm a technical game designer here at Valkyrie, and I've been working on State of Decay 2 for about as long as Andrew has. And I've been primarily working on gameplay features and modifications.
And then, of course, there's you all's boss, Ryan Blinsky, who's with us today. Hey, Ryan. How are you doing?
Good. How's it going, Geoffrey? Thanks for having us.
So Valkyrie Entertainment is an outside studio that we've basically partnered with in order to create Update 26, the Homecoming update. They've got a lot of really talented artists, designers, and programmers who've done everything for us, from putting together the sidearms to a bunch of the other things that we're going to talk about today. Ryan, do you want to give folks a quick rundown about who Valkyrie is so they have a sense of who we're talking about?
Sure. Yeah. See, we're an independent studio. We are in Seattle, actually not too far from Undead Labs, probably less than a mile from your guys' studio.
Very convenient.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we partnered up with you guys during the pandemic. We haven't all met in person, only over Slack and Zoom. But yeah, we've been around since 2002. Right now, we're currently around 50 people in our studio. Not all 50 people are dedicated to State of Decay 2, unfortunately. They're on other projects doing other things.
That's not unfortunate. I like a lot of those projects, so I'm glad you're working on all these things.
We also do our own in-house development, and we're actually just now doing a soft launch of our mobile game, Guns Up Mobile. Oh. I'm just going to plug that real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead. That's great. Yeah, and you guys also have teams working on like Aliens, Fireteam Elite, a bunch of other stuff. Like, you guys are high-class studios.
Correct. Yeah, we just had a team come off that, and 2 years ago we were fortunate enough to work with Sony Santa Monica on God of War.
Oh wow!
Which got Game of the Year. So we were very happy to partner up with them for that.
Cool. And so, in addition to Valkyrie, I also want to introduce you all to Megan Bishop. Megan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. I am the community manager / lighting artist here.
Yeah, so a lot of you already know Megan because whenever we do one of these streams, she's usually moderating one of our channels. She's the one who funnels you all the information that you need in the chat, who brings your questions to us. And if you follow our social media feeds, she writes all of those things. And in fact, she's not just a social media manager and a writer. She also does a lot of art, like she just said. In fact, why don't we pop into this little view here so that I can show you some of my favorite things that she's done. She's created some new swag for us that we're going to be distributing somehow in the wake of Update 26. As you can see here, this is a placemat from the Fork in the Road Diner. It looks like an absolutely realistic placemat like you might find in some small town diner. This is some gorgeous work, Megan.
Thanks.
And all of the little...
It was very fun.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying it was really fun to do.
Yeah, so all of the art that you see, like announcements of our stream, stuff like that, Megan makes all of that stuff herself. She's a very talented artist. And this time around, we actually had her working on the map itself, specifically doing the lighting, which is your area of expertise. Am I right?
Yes. I've been in the gaming industry since 2006. 90% of that time was being a lighting artist.
So you actually made us sort of a little bit of a demo here of what our day-night cycle actually looks like if you speed it up over time. Because so when you're crafting the lighting for a map, it's not just picking one, sort of like, well, the sun's here, the light's going there, and I'm done, right? There's a lot more to it than that.
That's yes, a lot more.
So like, what do you have to do to make something like this?
Well, we use a software called True Sky for the day and night cycle, which controls the sun and moon positions and the atmospherics and clouds. And then another software called Enlighten to compute the bounce lighting throughout the world. And then there's just a bunch of different curves and controls that you have to plug in to make a whole day cycle work.
So the more complex and modern, like it used to be, I remember working on games, in the early 2000s, where basically you just have make a point light somewhere on the map, a couple of directional lights here and there, and it was and that was it. But the lighting models that you work with these days are just so complicated. They're like really based in like physics, and it's like reality, and you have to be basically tweaking reality to make this stuff work.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. Every little tiny thing you can think of that changes throughout the day, you need a different curve for. You need to remember to change it, yeah, down to the color of the fog, throughout the day.
And so, so you and the folks at Valkyrie all needed to use these tools in order to create sort of the day and the night cycle and all of the lighting for the Trumbull Valley map. And specifically, the Trumbull Valley lighting is a little bit different from the lighting that we have in other parts of the map. Like, for instance, I think that the night is a little bit more of like a Hollywood night. Is that how you describe it?
Yes. So most of our other maps, we were going for the really claustrophobic kind of typical horror, horror game show or whatever. Not game show.
Yeah, like a horror movie. Like you want to feel like you're just trapped in the dark and you don't know what might be around the corner because you can only see a few feet in front of your face. We changed that for this time. It feels a little bit more like when you're shooting nighttime in a movie and you can see everything. It's just a darker shade of blue. Yeah.
And that actually came from a test level that Valkyrie did for us a while ago, which we fell in love with. Unfortunately, due to like technical and gameplay limitations, we couldn't bring it over one-to-one exactly, but it was a big inspiration for the nighttime change.
And since we're talking about the Valkyrie's contribution to the lighting, we should introduce one more Valkyrie artist who just joined us. Matt Tanari, do you want to say hi? Matt, are you there? I can't hear Matt. Never mind. Matt's not going to talk to us. It could be that his mic is off or something like that. The way that I've got this set up, whoever last spoke is who shows up on the screen. And so if Matt has trouble speaking, we also can't see Matt. So sorry about that, Matt. But yeah, oh, wait, there he is. Hey there, Matt.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. That's great.
Okay, hi. Hello. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. Everybody... Over the course of this stream, people are going to be filing in and out, and so we're just going to do our best to introduce people as they arrive. So Megan did a lot, tons of the lighting on the map, and you all also contributed to this stuff, including the lighting at some of the bases, if I'm remembering that right.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct.
Because when you're doing the lighting for the overall map, you're mostly thinking about the sun and the atmosphere and how the light streams through the entire world, and it's kind of it's one set of settings for the entire world. But when it comes to nighttime, each building has got its own set of artificial lights, and you really have to think through, how you're going to make it possible for the player to see what they're doing when they're at home. And I feel like the bases in Trumbull Valley are much more brightly lit and easier to see in than a lot of our past bases have been. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, we went a little crazy.
I mean, looking at that...
A little bit different than what you had.
Looking at that image of the Ferris wheel when it pops up, it's just like one of the most over-the-top lighting schemes we've ever had in a base.
Yeah, it was really fun. So we were able to really just go a little crazy with these bases and kind of bring them to life at night with the idea that, you'd be able to see them from a distance and be able to make your way home.
Yeah, so I think that Megan did the lighting on about half the bases. Valkyrie did the lighting at about the other half of the bases, and all of these things. I mean, you guys are definitely going to want to get power to your base and look around at it at night, because this is some of the most sort of fancy lighting schemes we've ever done in a map. And it's one of those things where if you're not thinking about it, it's really easy to just accept. Oh yeah, of course, the lights are on at night. Whatever, I'm used to that in my regular life. But I'd encourage everybody who plays this game to really pay attention to the way these places are lit, because we're really taking huge strides forward with this team working on the game. So Ryan has put together actually some before and after shots to sort of help us kind of understand it. Actually, one thing I forgot to do is put our faces on this screen. Well, I'm going to just edit this thing live right now. boom, look, there's me. And boom, there's Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hey.
So anyway, so Ryan, Andrew, Matt, all of you, you came in and we were working on this map, and we basically, asked you to help us with, here and there with the lighting, and also with sort of a lot of the kind of fundamental elements of sort of what makes the background of this world, the vistas, the foliage, the way that the ground textures look. You folks really sort of reached in and on sort of on a sort of foundational level, really sort of leveled up what was possible in this map. Like, this is a before, an image of the map before you guys started working on a lot of this stuff, and here is an after. And I hope the audience can really sort of tell, like, watch this again as I turn it on and off. Not only did sort of the lighting and the atmosphere change, but look at that tree behind the shed, and how much better that tree looks these days. You guys really sort of got into our like foliage generation process. Look at that like evergreen tree to the left of it, and how it just looks, more sort of interesting, realistic. You can really sort of see the branches, and all of this, as far as I understand, performs just as well as the original trees did in the map. And that probably took a lot of work, didn't it, Ryan?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually. We were able to partner with SpeedTree and get the latest version of SpeedTree 8 up and running. And every one of those trees you see is the exact same triangle count, same texture usage and everything as the original trees, just done in SpeedTree 8.
So yeah, it's amazing how, like, I mean, it's not, these look like, these look like normal video game trees. There's nothing that stands out about them as being like bad or anything like that. But then you see the new ones, you're like, oh wait, no, that's what a tree looks like. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, one thing to note here too, we were able to utilize mega scans from Quixel as well. So a lot of the texturing has been scanned from real world data. So that's why they look so realistic, and we put our little touch on it as well.
Yeah, the same strategy that we use for our characters' faces, photogrammetry, that kind of thing. A lot of this modern technology that lets you grab all of the kind of surprising, like imperfections in the real world and bring them into a game model. Stuff you would never think of, necessarily as an artist. We'll just get in there, and then it's up to you to sort of massage and tweak it and make the perfect version that'll appear in the game. One thing that the audience might notice is that each time I switch between the before and the after, one of the biggest things that changes is the skyline, is the horizon, which is a huge place that you guys put a ton of effort into this. Like right here, you can see like Danforth up above me, the sort of the wrecked buildings. Looks kind of like the background from Daybreak, and we've got all these sort of rocks in the background. Then you look at this, and you can see tree lines, a much more sort of dense, interesting distant city. You guys really put a ton of work into this.
Yeah, this is something I'd like to pass off to Andrew Lund, actually, because he did a lot of work painting all those trees that you see in the distance there.
So what does Ryan mean by painting trees, Andrew?
Yeah, so on the Vista, there's a number of different hill meshes that are in the background. So they are actually geometry. They're not just flat cards. And then there are trees. Obviously, you can see along the hill, especially the little silhouette that you can see the darkness of the trees as the light pops through them. And those all kind of need to be painted and massaged to some degree to get a nice layering effect. So you have the closer hills, the trees are of a certain height that sort of makes sense. And then as the hills sort of march away and layer away into the fog, they get a little bit smaller, or forcing perspective a little bit, make it feel more expansive, like you're in a real world and not just in the map that you're playing in. Like, makes it feel like you could go quite beyond the map.
So like right here, like players can see, they can kind of tell that these hills in the background are fairly close to the camera, and these new hills are just as close, but you've cheated the sizes of the trees to make them look like they're more distant, and also the atmospherics to make it look like they're more distant, so the player can feel like, wow, I'm seeing miles and miles away.
Yeah, and hopefully that's not revealing too much magic, but it should feel a lot better for players.
No, our audience loves to understand how the sausage is made. This is great. And one thing that's really worth pointing out, like you guys alluded to this real quick, the way that the sun is streaming through these leaves, of the trees. Like you can see sort of at the very top of the screen to the right of Andrew's head, like the backlit leaves. Some of them you see are dark and shadowed, but the ones that just have one layer of leaf between you and the sun, they're lit up the way that a leaf is actually lit up in real life.
Yeah, so this is something that happens in real life. It's called subsurface scattering. When light passes through a very thin material, typically organic, you can hold a leaf up to the sun, and you can see the veins in the leaf. That's the type of thing that we're bringing in here. It makes things feel a little bit more realistic. It pops them a little more. It's a little more vibrant, a little more color, a little more saturation. It's just, it's exactly what you want. It's fun, colorful, vibrant colors while you're killing hordes of nasty zombies.
So Dennis Okiba in the chat says, so the lighting changed with this update? That wasn't in the patch notes, because that's a fundamental part of building the map. What we said in the patch notes is, we got a new map. But that's why we do this this stream, is so that we can talk to the folks who built the map and you can understand all of the detailed work that goes into making something like this, that when you're not when you're just barreling through the map, driving your car, smashing through zombies, you might not notice all this subtlety, but your brain notices it. And you can tell, you really feel like you're in a more realistic world. So one of my favorite pieces of art that you all brought in, so this is the original version of Mount Tanner. That was in the background. It's one of the biggest, horizon landmarks in Trumbull Valley ever since the first game. But you guys put a lot of work into making a new Mount Tanner that feels like it's a mountain. Like this feels like a nice rocky peak. Like you've just gotten really close to the top of the mountain. It's nice and everything, but this is a mountain. So yeah, so like, it's basically the same techniques. Are those really tiny trees trying to make that mountain look bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, there's some of that. The mountain is very big, and it's fairly close to the map actually. But yeah, we definitely applied some of those layering tree techniques to make it feel even larger than it actually is.
So I made the mistake of, I set our time of day to be about 2 o'clock, and then I left the game paused for a really long time, and so that is not going to help us get into sort of the sunset zone that you all were hoping that we'd be able to see during the gameplay. So let me get back into gameplay here. I've just cheated the time of day to be a little closer to sunset, which is probably one of the more dramatic times to sort of to look at the lighting in the game. You can see Mount Tanner there out in the background, just disappearing into the clouds. Oh, do you want to talk? Who is it that should talk a little bit about sort of this building the skybox of this game? It's Skybox is probably an old-fashioned term. I don't know if that's even appropriate now. It's not really a box anymore. It's a bunch of it's a bunch of pretty clouds.
No, those are actual 3D volumetric clouds. It's exactly what Megan was talking about before, with actual curves and editors that you can change the height of the clouds, the type of clouds, how cloudy it is during different times of day. So one thing we wanted to make sure we hit here was the clouds actually hitting the top of that mountain, so it kind of could sell the scale of it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's amazing what a difference it makes having like you said, like sort of the forced perspective on the trees, the clouds touching the mountain. It goes. This mountain, as far as I understand, is not any bigger than the original mountain we had. It just feels enormous, which is yeah, I love the sort of, I don't know, I don't want to call it trickery necessarily, but the technique that you all have figured out how to use in order to sort of make this stuff really feel real. It just reminds me of like when I went to Crater Lake, and the whole point of a place like that is to impress you with its scale, and this is having a little bit of that same effect.
Yeah, one thing I would like to point out about the mountain is it is 3D. That is not just a giant image of a mountain. That thing will change with the lighting throughout the day as well. Yeah. It was created with a mix of USGS topographical data, a little bit of ZBrush, a little bit of Substance Painter, a little bit of Maya.
Just drawing from every source you possibly can to make this thing as huge and realistic as possible. So while we still got you all, one person we have not yet talked a lot to is Brian Rouleau. And Brian has actually was responsible for some of the improvements to the game that have actually been some of our audience's favorite bits as they've been playtesting in the beta. So let me, I just realized I've been playing in the green zone. It's hard to find zombies around here, but let me go find some zombies to fight and just get out of my car for a second. Oh, whoa, what's that? The lights are still on in my car. Brian Rouleau, what have you done? Yes. Whoa! I actually. Oh,
I think he's frozen.
I think we might have lost Brian. Oh no, that's too bad. Well, at least the audience got to meet him for a second. Yeah. So if Brian's having trouble talking to us, that is totally fine. He can join us anytime he likes. But yeah, so this is something that audience members have been requesting for a really long time. The ability to leave your headlights on, because, like on most of our maps, even Trumbull Valley, you know, to some degree or another, it can get pretty dark. And you know, wanting to have sort of the ability to do what you would do in real life, which is aim your car at something and turn on the lights so that you can explore it and still see. That is now an option that you have in the game, which is amazing. Brian had to dig into sort of a bunch of our code, and not just turn off. So one of the reasons why we didn't leave headlights on all the time was because we can only handle so many lights, you know, in the world at a time and still have the game be performant. And so he had to not just let you turn the lights on, but also make rules in the background for it. For instance, if I got into another car right now, the lights on this car would turn off. Each player, you can have 4 sets of headlights on in multiplayer, but each player only gets to have 1 set of headlights that they have left on. And so, yeah, so Brian needed to set up a whole bunch of rules like that. And then, where did the zombies go? There's a zombie over there. And so another thing that has changed recently is melee combat. So I personally am a button masher. I tend to just hit the button about 4 times, as many times as I need to for combat. And one of the problems with that is there's a lot of games, and ours included for a long time, where it would buffer attacks, so that if I was just hammering the button, I would end up hitting more zombies than I intended to. Like I would be, you know, attack the zombie I meant to, and then I would attack 1 more zombie afterwards because I had buffered an extra attack. So Brian actually went in and messed with the sensitivity of that to make sure that. Oh, there's Brian. Do you want to talk about what you did with the melee combat?
Yeah. So now that my computer's not frozen, so you still have melee queuing, melee buffering system. That's still in there. It's just a lot less sensitive. So it requires you to, for it to actually queue up another attack, a second melee attack, it requires you to press the button towards the end of your first attack animation. It's especially noticeable with heavy weapons, which have such long animations. So if you're mashing your heavy weapon and then you notice like a bloater nearby and you let off, so long as you let off soon enough, you won't have a second attack queued up that might hit the bloater.
Yeah, which is something that has happened to me many, many times. I'll have my character, like, I'll finish killing the zombie that I'm trying to kill, and then because I had accidentally buffered an attack, I'll end up just, like, you know, my character will dive across the map to hit some other zombie I had no intention of hitting. Another advancement you made to our melee system too is the fact that it used to be that when I was swinging my, when I was swinging my weapon and I knocked a zombie down, and I really should have grabbed a big, heavy, blunt weapon for this. But if I'm swinging my weapon and I knock a zombie down and get them to a position where they're vulnerable, and actually, what I should probably do, if I was any good at this, I would do this. Let me throw some zombies down. You'll notice that it used to be that a lot of your melee attacks would prevent you from being able, you would have to wait until your melee attack was completely done before you could execute a zombie. And now you can actually execute them much more readily. And it makes it much more of a, basically an option in combat to be knocking zombies down, executing them, knocking them down, executing them. Whereas before that was really inconvenient.
Yeah, so effectively, originally the finisher move, the downed attack, didn't queue, it didn't buffer with everything else. So I effectively just hooked it into the same system as the melee buffer. So if you knock down a dude and the icon should pop up pretty much immediately, and if you press the button right then and there, it'll just queue it and use it as soon as it can.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because I'm sitting here with a bladed weapon, I can't really demonstrate it because I always kill the zombies before they bother to fall down. So it's really inconvenient that I chose that. But maybe I could go find one somewhere during this stream so that we can see that stuff in action. But yeah, those are a couple of the I don't know, some of the features that, even though it's not like a brand new map, like when you get a brand new map, it's really easy to feel like, oh wow, something was added to the game. Players who've been playing this game for a long time are really recognizing some of these other sort of smaller gameplay tweaks as being just as big a deal to sort of improving the player experience in here. So I'm going to go and get myself stuck on this route down to the river just because, I don't know, it's a place to go.
Yeah, one other thing I noticed, Geoffrey, when you walked away from the car and the headlights were still on and you were, a block or two away,
yeah.
In that situation, you might not know where your car is, but now it's quite obvious.
That's true.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that actually is sort of a problem the players sometimes have, and we've actually been thinking about other solutions we can use for that too. But yeah, it's like it's really easy to tell what the last car I was in was, even from all the way over here. Oh, there we go. Oh, lights just turned off. So you get far enough away, and they eventually turn off. But you know, because lights are expensive. Unless, oh no, maybe that was my battery dying. Oh no, oh no. My family and I just went to a drive-in theater recently, and so that's always a fear. That's something you got to worry about. But nope, my lights still work. There we go.
And it started.
So yeah, so Valkyrie folks, is there anything else that you want to sort of anything that I've missed? Anything that like you really want to make sure that the audience is aware of as they're driving around in this map and exploring the place?
The small foliage also, like little grass, flowers, some of the little bushes, they got a bit of an up res as well. So you might notice that, especially the flowers. You can't see it so well at night, but the flowers in the grass, they have always been there, but they were a little more muted. So we kind of brought the saturation up a little bit more, and actually had to thin them out because once we did that, they were like way too obvious. So there's a lot of little things like that, especially just blending the terrain together a little more. And with the trees, the base of the trees now have roots, so they blend into the terrain a little bit better as well.
Yeah, the terrain also had materials completely remade for it, using some more Megascans assets.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about how this works? Like, as you know, this is not just like a single texture that was created to be described, but it's also clearly not the classic, like, you know, tiling textures you would see from like the very early 2000s. There's something much more complex going on here.
Yeah, so in Unreal, you can paint down, you know, multiple layers of different terrain materials, and they blend pretty seamlessly with height maps. And so we did have to do a little bit of painting, but for the most part, it was just a straight replace of, you know, things like the grass, the rocks, the sand, the roots.
Yeah, the sort of the state of the art of video game art is just constantly moving. It's just a constantly moving target, and there's no way to sort of make something one year and then just have it be perennial. It's like, you know, people's expectations, their experience in games is just constantly moving forward. And so one of the really advantages to bringing you folks in is you all are experts in whatever the state of the art of Unreal is, and you were able to sort of go in here and sort of bring a lot of the things that were perfectly normal art to have in a video game when we released 3 years ago, bringing it up to the level of that people expect now, 3 years later, you know, after this game has been out for a while. And so, you know, one thing that I'm really looking forward to, I mean, our work with Valkyrie is barely reaching a middle. We are not at the end, and so I think, you know, the audience can probably look forward, and we're not going to get into the details of exactly what we've got planned, but I think the audience can look forward to a lot of additional improvements all over the game from these artists at Valkyrie. You can see some of their work here. This is a nice sampling of what they can do, but this is not the end of what they're going to be doing with this game. So I'm really, really happy to have you all on the team, and that you were all here to join us today. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So,
yeah, thanks, Geoffrey.
So we've got a couple folks from QA who have started filing in, and they are going to be the stars of the show for our next segment. So let's really quickly say goodbye to everybody here at Valkyrie. Ryan Blinsky, I'll see you later. Thanks for coming on here. Andrew,
thanks for having us.
Andrew, do you want to say goodbye to the audience?
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Hopefully you get to see lots of cool behind-the-scenes stuff, and keep playing.
And then Matt, do you want to anything you want to say as we're wrapping up?
Just a pleasure to be here.
And Brian Rouleau, if you'd like to say anything to the audience as I crash my car.
He froze again.
Oh, Brian froze again. Well, I will say goodbye for Brian. It's been wonderful having him on the team too. He's actually he's one of the folks that I've been working most closely with, and he's been an absolute joy. So thank you for everything you contributed, Brian, as well. All right, so thanks, Valkyrie. I'd love to see you all again some other time, but for right now, let's introduce our next round of guests. This is the... Oh, Megan! Megan, I forgot to say goodbye to Megan. Megan, hey, thank you so much. You were the first artist that we talked to on the stream, and I almost forgot to thank you and say goodbye. Megan, thank you for everything you do.
Sure. Just really quickly, there was a couple of questions in chat about uploading screenshots afterwards on Discord. And just to let you know, I'll do that right after the stream.
Awesome. Yeah. So Megan is one of the more multi-talented members of our team. Not only does she do social media management, she also likes this map, and it's been just wonderful to be able to see your work in here, and just benefit from all of the many things that you bring to the table. So thank you, Megan.
Oh, thank you.
So you all will probably see Megan as a mod in the chat as we keep going forward, especially once Wonder comes and joins us later on at 2 o'clock. But for right now, let's introduce some of our QA testers who are joining us here in the chat. So Thomas Bledsoe, are you there?
Yes, I am.
This is Thomas Bledsoe. He is part of our QA department. He was embedded with our mission designers mostly, though I think all of you contribute to some degree to basically testing all of the game. But each of you sort of had a sort of an area of specialization. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
We've also got Scott Shapiro. Scott was embedded with our content team, like folks who made the bounty pack and a lot of the sort of specialized weapons and things. Scott, did I get that right?
Yeah, and I also was on a stream once, like 2 years ago, and my camera doesn't work. So hi.
So those of you, who have met Scott, Scott has been a really a fun contributor to this stream. We're happy to have them here. We're also happy to have Jeremy Morhaime. Jeremy.
Hi there.
There is Jeremy Morhaime. So Jeremy was embedded with our map team, and so a lot of the stuff that you're seeing around here, the fact that all of these posts are firmly rooted in the ground, probably has a lot to do with Jeremy catching them when they weren't. So it's really great to have you all here. And now I've gotten stuck. I've gotten high centered. This is wonderful. Cool. I don't need this car anyway. Who needs this car? This is garbage. Let's move on. So you folks. I would love to give the audience a sense of what your job as QA testers is like, sort of over the arc of a project like this, because you didn't just come in at the very end to find all of the mistakes that we had made. You three have been involved in building Update 26 for a year. You've been embedded with this team for ages, right from the very beginning. So does anyone want to sort of like give us a sense of like what you start out doing on a team when we haven't even built anything yet?
For one, like making sure that things are feasible to be tested. Like if there's a too big of a scope, like we're gonna add 3 times the size of the map, and then we're gonna have to like, okay, maybe we can get extra people to help us out with, and then for narrative stuff that we worked on, some tools that might help us test things that pop up that we might need.
Yeah, it is very easy for game developers to just get basically too big for our britches to imagine, oh, what if I made a system that generated just tons and tons and tons of random content? I need, sometimes that sounds really fun to me, but I need a tester to tell me, hey, wait a minute, how exactly am I going to be able to test that? That it's kind of a problem that we've created with this game, because so much of it is procedurally generated. From the characters to the names to the order of in which missions fire, and trying to test this stuff has actually, sometimes we make absolute nightmares for you folks, don't we?
Yeah, I think as far as like at the very start of testing, we kind of get everything imported, especially from like for Trumbull Valley, taking everything from from that map over to, from Heartland over to Fostite, which is now Trumbull Valley. Yeah. We had a lot of issues where it was just like, okay, well, we have to check everything from Heartland to make sure that that is all working, as well as also looking at the newer content. So looking at, actually looking at Marshall, and then looking at the Fairfield and everything like that. So we just wanted to go ahead and fully at the very start of everything, just make sure to verify that there wasn't anything broken. You couldn't like get out of the map or fall through the map or anything like that. So it's very, very small at the start, but we want to make sure that it's as close as it can be to where we can test it. So
Yeah, because
make sure all the sidewalks can actually be walked up onto.
Oh, that is something that I should definitely call attention to. So yeah, we've got a very short video that's going to come out on our YouTube channel pretty soon that I actually made while I was preparing for our previous stream, where I was running back and forth across the curb in Marshall. I should head over there and show that off, because that actually is a lovely advancement that we have that we've made to the game. This is probably a good spot to start heading towards. But yeah, there were
sidewalks that aren't surmountable.
Oh no! Have I got my stuff stuck again? Good. I did. There we
go.
Your
man.
I am very bad at this game. Oh wow! Look at me. So each time I hit this obstacle, it's knocking me off in a different direction. Okay, there we go. Finally. Ah, we're gonna make this. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. So yeah. So you all, I mean. So there were a lot of things, because we already had a working map to start with. We already had the Heartland map, and obviously there had to be a lot of changes made to that map in order to become what Trumbull Valley is today. Not just the fact that Trumbull Valley added this whole new section of Fairfield, this whole new section up here for Mount Tanner, but also we needed, we were going to build 6 entire new bases. We were going to age the map and make, major changes to the layout in order to sort of to reflect the passage of time. So like, from the very beginning, we already had a map for you to test, and then we had constantly, every day, new stuff was coming in and altering what had been there before. So I mean, is it hard to keep up with all that? I mean, once the team really starts to get going, you go from having no bugs being passed into your testing column to suddenly we're just resolving them like crazy, completing tasks like crazy. Does it get overwhelming? What do you do?
Well, I guess as far as map site goes, the having a plan for each one of the sections is always good. Like when we brought in the new sites, which were just like the new buildings, the new outposts and everything, we wanted to make sure that we wanted to do a full gambit of testing on all of that. That goes into like Spencer's Mill, that goes into all the different areas inside of the map. So, having a plan of being like, well, I have to go on every single site. I have to make sure that every container can be looted, and just probably kind of making like a list and more or less just like a checklist of every single thing. Keeps it well organized, because if we didn't have that, we would totally get drowned in all the different additions that actually came through. So yeah, and we had test plans, we had different things too, and I also want to call out that MSQA, which is our actual third-party testing group, actually helped so much in that, because we would actually write up the test plans, and we would have a lot of the different test cases, and then they would actually execute those test cases, and they did a perfect job at bugging everything and making sure that this was very stable. So they did a really good job too.
So there's actually a lot of variety in sort of the QA profession, because you three were the sort of the full-time testers who were embedded on our teams, planning out, and organizing how we were going to test this stuff. But as far as sort of the bulk sort of person power that goes into just getting the sheer amount of coverage that it takes, that was a whole different job that was done by some folks who were outside the studio.
That's correct. Yeah. MSQA, which is our actual Microsoft QA that's over in Tempe, Arizona. We've worked with them pretty much as we possibly could, and it helped give a lot of exposure for a lot of the different areas inside of Trumbull Valley. So they did a bang-up job on everything.
Oh, hey, there was one question that I missed during the previous section that I should get to. Silverio Silverini asks, are these graphical changes PC or console exclusive? No, everything that you're seeing here, I'm playing this on a console right now, but everything you're seeing is shared across all platforms. We do our best to make the platforms as similar to each other as possible, including, this is the thing that Scott called out, look at this! You can run back and forth across this curb all day if you want to, and it's totally fine. This is a long-standing problem we had in Heartland, where some of the curbs in Marshall caused a big problem to characters trying to run across them. But one of the programmers from Valkyrie actually finally figured out how to solve it. It was sort of a physics problem deep in the map that I don't know how to explain, but it was bigger. It was a bigger issue than just sort of normal geometry, and we finally have got this fixed. But we rely on folks like this QA team to find stuff like that, because it's really easy when you're building something like this just to not happen to test some of the stuff that could go wrong. Like for instance, when I was working on the missions for the Red Talon base, we ended up accidentally making a character invincible. They were incapable of taking plague damage. They were incapable of taking injuries. But unfortunately, when I was testing that mission, I never actually took that character farther. I would just make sure that the character made it into the game, and then that was it. And so, like, a big part of you guys' job is sort of figuring out what are the developers not thinking of. Like, we're like got laser focus on, you know, just solving the immediate problems that are on our task list. But somebody has to think about, well, what are we not going to do? And you have to think about that well in advance. Like, before we've even built anything, which is impressive to me. I mean, a lot of your job is not just playing a video game and seeing what goes wrong. A lot of it is figuring out, anticipating what can go wrong in a video game and planning ahead to test for all of it.
And saying, like... Oh, go ahead.
All right. So some of it is, like, they're, like, even, you know, a design team will lay out what it is they want to implement. And then, you know, since we're embedded with the various teams, you get to look at it and say, oh, this would be impossible to test. Or technically, like, it's like, oh, yeah, no, we can do this, except it would be very strange to make sure it actually works correctly. So, you know, just be aware that is going to take a lot of QA resources. Yeah. For items for this big update, there wasn't a whole lot of that. With items, there's always a little bit of prove a negative that they're not showing up where they're not supposed to. But and that's always a fun use time.
Proving a negative is one of the most, like, I always feel really guilty when I pass you all a fix to a bug where I'm like, well, I fixed this one extremely rare thing that never happens. Good luck proving that I did. Yeah.
You seem to be tasked with a lot of those.
Yeah, that's true. That's like, yeah, that's sort of the jobs ended up on me are things that are like, you know, hey, this trait that was showing up under the wrong circumstances, it's not showing up under the wrong circumstances anymore. I dare you to prove me wrong. And sometimes it actually works, and sometimes it doesn't, unfortunately. But it's really hard to figure out.
That reminds me. Did we decide that the old buddies thing is feature, not a bug?
Which old buddies thing are you talking about? Now
so the like companion who gets blood plague in the old buddies start gets construction, except some of the traits that are available for him give him utilities instead.
Oh, you know what? We probably, I don't remember if we fixed that or not. That does sound familiar, but maybe.
I don't think it got fixed.
Probably not.
So I think it was decided it's a little Easter egg or something.
Now I need to take notes. Okay, utilities.
No.
Buddies. Okay, now I've got a job to do. I think
it's neat, and personally, I use the utility start because, like, for an experienced player, it's generally better than construction. So
I guess that is true.
But,
that is a good point. So we've been bringing up a few bugs here. I'm curious if any of you have, like, favorite bugs you ran into while you were working and developing the Trumbull Valley update. If there's anything that stands out as being sort of a favorite.
There's a couple ladder ones that I liked. That
did you say ladder bugs?
Yep. There was one where there's a ladder that's completely blocked off, but you can still climb it, and it leads you to the top of the building and just drops you like 2 stories down.
It's just a ladder to nowhere.
Yep. And another one where there was they use ladders to, like, kind of build a walkway that's more visual than anything, but they were still considered ladders. So one of the devs found that you could actually climb the ladder at a 45-degree backwards up into the building.
Climbing underneath the ladder like it's a set of monkey bars?
Yeah. But you're, like, almost like this, walk backwards.
And of course, the animation was not created to look like somebody was doing that, so they just looked like Spider-Man, basically.
Yep, it was pretty funny.
What about you, Jeremy or Scott?
Well, I guess the funniest one was the most recent one that we have. So Valkyrie actually put in a new change. I think it was maybe in CU25 or possibly in this content update, where screamers, when they actually scream, they break windows.
That's right, yeah.
Which is great. We were actually testing it out on multiplayer the other day, and as we were in a car, like 4 people in a car, one of the screamers actually screamed and broke the windshield, and when that happened, it actually crashed the game.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun at all.
No, it was a quick fix because we were getting so close to releasing everything. But I think that was one of the more fun ones to see because it's definitely an edge test case. And like you said, Geoffrey, like we have a lot of things that we put out live, and we never expect that actually is going to happen. And then we get reports of, actual hordes coming and just like spawning in front of cars that we never would have even seen in our actual testing. So it's always fun to see edge test cases and try to, fix those as they come along.
Yeah, because one of the challenges of the fact that we have a game that has been played by 10 million people, more than 10 million people by this point, is the fact that if something happens, once in 1,000 times, which is seems like a very rare, very small bug, that means it's going to happen to like 10,000 people. There's a barrel. And so even if something's a very low incidence bug, it only happens, 1 out of 10 times, 1 out of 100 times, it's still a serious issue. And unfortunately, proving that it's fixed can be really tough because, you've got to just test something until you've done it like 100 times to prove that it won't happen 1 out of 100 times, which is a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that too, we could go ahead and test it, 100 times and, we could go ahead and try to figure it out as much as we can. But, you'll never be absolutely able to get reproduction steps for a lot of the stuff that comes in too. Mostly just because, sometimes we don't have the full information. Sometimes, there's the human part of it too, where, I could go ahead and do all these different reproduction steps that I think is right and actually isn't right, and then think that it's something that's, not a big issue, and then it actually becomes a big issue. So it's kind of tough, it's a balance between being able to test that stuff and test all the content before it comes out, and then having something happen later on that we definitely could not have seen. So.
And actually, we're talking about reproduction steps, for instance. So we just, for instance, went live with this update in our beta, in our public test realm on Steam, a week in advance before before other people got their hands on it. Normally, we'd actually like to do it a little bit longer than that, but that's sort of the time that we had available to us. But one of the things that happens is, we'll get the audience members reporting bugs to us, saying, "Oh, hey, this weird thing happened." And that will be the end of the information they give us. And so a huge part of the role that you guys play during the beta period, it's not like you stop having to do your job once we got a bunch of, playtesters out there in the world. When somebody sends us information about a bug in the beta, you still need to demonstrate to us, to the devs, how that bug actually works, which means a lot of investigation. And so, like for instance, when you're talking about sort of like repro steps, what does that actually stand for? Like, what does that mean? For the sake of the audience who hasn't heard that jargon before.
So reproduction steps pretty much go into actually breaking down every single thing that has for that specific problem. That goes into, like you might say, I drove a car and I slammed into this one area and, there's an invisible wall there or something to that effect. Well, what we would do is we would go ahead and say, I sync to this specific build, or I sync to, retail in some cases. I need to spawn a vehicle. I spawned a vehicle. I started driving. I went over to this area at these coordinates, and I hit this part right there. When we try to get as much information as we possibly can, whether it's screenshots or it's a video of the car hitting in that specific area. So the reproduction steps are, breaking down things to the absolute step-by-step process. So yeah,
I think when a lot of folks out there in the audience sort of imagine what it's like to be a video game tester, I think they just imagine, oh, I sit around and play video games and complain when something goes wrong, which is what they do in their normal lives anyway. And so they probably feel like, well, I'm already doing that job. But it's way more than that, because you have to be extremely, not only do you have to be able to, an experienced tester, the value of having an experienced tester on a team is that you already know how to anticipate all the things that might go wrong. You know exactly what to test, exactly what to check, and what to plan for. You can tell us in advance what's going to take a long time, what's going to be really risky and unstable, and we can, work those plans into our schedules. But then on top of that, after you've found a problem, you have to be able to break it down to just the very fine minutiae. Like, for instance, we had that supply locker crash that came with update 25, with the last update. And, you know, we had audience members reporting it to us, and each audience member told a different story about what series of actions had led them to have that bug. And so somebody on our team had to figure out what the real reproduction steps were. And it ended up being something really kind of surprising and arcane.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, with everything when it comes to testing as well too. I mean, you know, you think that it's a great job to be able to play games for 8 hours a day and, you know, nothing's going to be out of it. But in essence, like, you know, after you play the game so much and, you know, it just becomes it is a good job. It's a rewarding job. But on that side of it too, like, it's not as fun as you think it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, if somebody wants to imagine what it's like being a game tester, I usually and tell me if this is accurate. It's like it's not really like playing your favorite game and having a great time. It's like playing the most messed up game you've ever played in your life and having to play the worst parts of it again and again and again and write an essay about it, which is just a complete. I mean, even if you end up loving the game you're working on, when it's first being built, when it's brand new, no game is good.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And you know, the other testers that worked on this content too can go ahead and say some more stuff about it too. But as far as for me, I mean, you know, I love State of Decay. I enjoy it a lot, but you know, once you play for so much and you have to report so many things, it gets to be kind of crazy too. So yeah, it's a good job though.
Yeah, the other fun thing about testing is, like you said, it's like you're thinking you're playing games all day, but sometimes you could just be doing one part of that game. Like example of like playing a game where you're raising ponies and you could brush their hair. You'd have to brush their hair 100 times just to make sure nothing breaks, which apparently was a real test for a game, I was told.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. By the way, I just have to point out one of the advancements in this map is you can. This is basically Lawn Mowing Simulator right here, which is a real game, but you can play some version of it here in the cornfields of Trumbull Valley, which is, I believe, not something you could do in an earlier version of the map.
No, it's in Heartland.
Oh, it's in Heartland, but it's just not in
Yes.
State of Decay 1.
It's also not in the 2 original maps that have corn, which is the thing I think we need to change. But
At some point, yeah, we would love to get to that. I think we're gonna need, now that Trumbull Valley is out. It is probably going to be a good time for us to look back at the other maps and see what kinds of, you know, a lot of the new things that we've done here, including, you know, the advancements to the foliage, to the sort of the lighting, the skyboxes, all this stuff. There's probably tons of improvements we can keep making to the maps that we already have. No specific promises there. There's a lot of things we could potentially do, but there's still just so much that we can do to keep you know, to keep this game relevant, to keep it sort of alive in people's consciousness, while, you know, newer and fancier games keep coming out, you know, at the same time.
And like you say about, you know, keeping the game relevant, that's like, as a tester, you know, we spend a whole lot of time with very broken things. And like, personally at least, like, when a update finally comes out, being able to go into a like normal personal account and play the finished product that is actually well put together instead of, you know, full of bugs, and it's in some ways a different experience. And it's also nice to just be kind of like, oh hey, this really came together, or oh hey, I remember when this didn't work at all because it was put in wrong, or I remember when this gun was really, really underpowered and there was no reason to use it. In 3 different meetings I said that, and it finally got changed, which didn't happen this time. But there have been a couple of guns that were in the bounty packs, because I spent a lot of time on that team that they just weren't tuned super well, and the final product being, you know, much better tuned, because we spent so much time being like, all right, no one would use this. Let's make this something someone actually cares about.
Yeah, that is one of the tough things about the bounty packs, because we want all those guns to really stand out and feel original and special, like you feel really proud of yourself for getting it. But at the same time, we can't just stretch the bounds of realism too far, because that's a huge part of what people like about State of Decay, is the fact that it's grounded in you know, in real world weapons and real world equipment. And so striking that balance can be really, really tough. And, you know, feedback from somebody who has played with every single bounty weapon and has the kind of perspective to help us figure out what to do, it can be really, really helpful.
The golden revolver, I I still think it's a little too quiet. Like that was the design intent was that it's a relatively quiet gun for its quiet rating. Like it's not. I'm tripping over the thoughts out of this, but like that was the thing where I'm like, I talked to a sound. I kind of directly talked to a sound designer and be like, I think this sounds very quiet. Is it supposed to be this quiet? He's like, yes, it's supposed to be that quiet. I'm like, all right, just as long as that's the intent. I just wasn't sure.
So we did have a question from the chat. Federico DeSante wants to know who removed the crashed Apache, and I just wanted to point out that clearly what happened is that the Apache melted. You can see right here there's a puddle in the ground. So the Apache was made out of a special new modern material that turns into water with enough exposure, and so that's what happened to the Apache. That is lore. You can take that to the bank. All right, so let's see. So we've only got a few minutes before we're gonna have the marketing team show up to talk about a lot of the stuff that we did leading up to the release of Update 26. Any of you have any other, like, I don't know, favorite parts of the Homecoming update? Things that we haven't really maybe paid enough attention to? Things that you want to sort of point out to players or are here in the game?
Oh, no spoilers, but I really like the new story elements.
Yeah, unfortunately, Thomas's entire job was working on parts of the game that we're avoiding talking about until the right time. So, yeah, Thomas and I had to go back and forth a lot because I ended up doing a lot of the sort of the final scripting and bug fixing on a lot of our missions. And so, yeah, there are probably, once some time has passed, maybe Thomas and I should come back and regale you with some of the stories of things that went wrong with these missions.
I haven't been 100% focused on this stream, so I don't know if it got touched on earlier, but I feel like it's worth pointing out that if you liked the Yeti Shrine on
Providence Ridge,
the last map, then there's more of that kind of thing on this.
Yeah, we had, so on the last official stream that we did, we had Andy Collins on there, and he talked through the fact that this map is not just full of our typical environmental storytelling elements, but there's, we spent a lot of time, and Thomas had to test a whole bunch of this stuff. We spent a lot of time building new tools that would allow us to not just fill the world with environmental storytelling. Things like, people like noticing sort of the It reference in Providence Ridge. In fact, I saw somebody tweet recently, or maybe they posted it on Facebook, that like one of their favorite things is seeing new players of the game discover that It reference, a little red balloon in Providence Ridge for the first time. The map is traditionally, all of our maps are full of that kind of stuff, but now we can actually have your characters react to it, comment on it. You can even get prizes for discovering some of these things. Some of our weapons and outfits are hidden behind finding these little Easter eggs and exploring them. So, yeah, thanks for calling that out, Scott, because I really hope that people out there in the chat will explore this map a little more closely, even than they explored the previous ones, and find some of this stuff that is hiding there waiting for them.
One of my favorite
track down so many containers.
One of my favorite of those new discoveries is the overlook from Spencer's Mill.
Oh, yeah.
That just gives you such a good view of everything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's always been a huge. I mean, Brant and I used to end streams in State of Decay 1 by just jumping off that cliff and seeing what happened to our character. And so, yeah, seeing that some of those favorite places called out specifically and given sort of a little bit of extra love and attention has been really fun for at least for me as a as a longtime fan of State of Decay, in addition to being a developer in the game. Jeremy, you got any favorite stuff?
Yeah. So in Fairfield and Fairground area, I just wanted to let everybody know that the bell that's really close to the Red Talent base can be shot, and it actually does make an audio cue.
Oh, that's right.
So if you're on lethal and you really want to die, I would suggest shooting that bell, because it really sucks when you do that.
It's just like the bell in Providence Ridge that you can shoot from was it the lumberyard base, or was it the firehouse? I'm trying to remember now.
It's the firehouse.
Firehouse, yeah. So it's just like the firehouse bell. So yeah, have fun with that, players. All right, let's see. So we have not actually had the marketing team show up yet in our chat, so I'm still with you guys for a little while. One thing I definitely want to do is teleport somewhere else, because I have run this car out of gas. I made the mistake of accidentally following the marker for one of our missions instead of following the marker that I left for myself up here. So I'm going to switch over. Oh, hey, Wonder has just joined us. Hello, Wonder. So for some reason, I'm staring right at your chin. I'm not sure why. But there you go.
I see that. Yeah, it looks fine on mine, but I'm adjusting.
All right.
See if that's better.
So this is Wanda Russell, for those of you who do not know her. She is our director of communications. She handles a ton of our like marketing and PR stuff, and she is the sort of the brains behind everything we do leading up to a release to let you know about it, and then after a release to make you more informed about it. All of our communications that we do, including this stream, this is all under Wanda's purview. And man, did you and your team do a ton leading up to this update?
Oh man, it's a team effort. Always. I mean, everyone that you see here brings it to you, and it's beyond our team. You know, everyone wears a lot of different hats in this studio, right? Like, yeah. Joe's talk about some of the broadcasts, and you know, and you might not expect that, you know, our customer support specialist would also be like diving into the lore of the world and crafting such amazing stories. And like we heard earlier, Megan is, you know, is doing lighting as well as social media. So yeah, it's a massive team effort, and you know, we couldn't do it without the whole studio.
So we should introduce also the other members that we're bringing in from our marketing department. Alan Diegfis, do you want to put your face up there and say something to us?
Hello. Am I on here? I don't know.
Yes, you are on here. Thank you, okay. Alan. So Alan is an artist. He does a lot of sort of the graphic art, graphic design that is involved in the game. Not only did he do a lot of the original designs for some of our UI and stuff inside the game, but also anytime you see a really amazing screenshot coming from our team, Alan is probably the one who like set that thing up, framed it up, and put it together for you. Also, he does like movies and things like that. Like he was deeply involved in some of the trailers that we've made. So, Alan, it's great to have you here. I'm glad the audience finally gets to meet you for the first time.
Glad to be here.
And then on top of Alan, we've also got, well, he's not literally on top of Alan, but on top of Alan, we've also got Joe Swarner here, who you all know. Joe, do you want to say hi to the audience?
We should build some new rooms. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Happy Wednesday, happy release day, and you know, welcome back to Trumbull Valley.
So yeah, so this team, in addition to Megan, this is sort of the team that gets together a lot of the time to plan things like our live streams, like our trailers, like our, you know, a lot of the communication we do with the outside world. And we've actually done a lot of very special stuff to promote the Homecoming update. And it was probably one of the things that was driving us crazy was we had all these big plans for so long, but we couldn't talk about this because a huge part of marketing something like this is making sure that all of the information drops at the right time. And so, like, leading up to Gamescom, we had to be so quiet about everything we were doing, but there was so much going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, our work follows the developers' work. So, you know, we're watching as things get developed, but we're really not in there, you know, working on the assets until things are in a polished phase. So we really dovetail and really ramp up at the end. So it's always like a massive flurry. Like this morning was just, you know, it's true for everyone who's on the release cycle, but yeah, just a massive flurry of pushing things live. But this was kind of fun to have, to hold this kind of like secret until a week before. You know, we announced it Gamescom, that was on the 24th, and then launched today. And what was really cool is having not only these really amazing assets, the premiere trailer, getting to be, you know, having that segment on the Xbox Gamescom stream, but then also having this really nice breathing period where we had a week to, you know, get that content into the beta and start messaging out, you know, more information about what is going to be in the update. Because when there's such a huge amount of features like there is in this update and our last update, honestly, yeah. We've had 2 insanely packed updates back to back. And there's so much that you don't want people to miss it all, right? Because it's just, there's so many great things that you want them to know about. And sometimes it's a little quality of life fix that's like buried in the patch notes. People are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You heard us. So it's super nice to have not only like the fun of like a really big reveal, but then also like this breathing room where we can kind of take you guys through it and talk about things like, here's the lighting, or let's look at the new environments, and like you said earlier, like fixing the curbs, like things like that. That video will be out tomorrow, by the way, on our channel.
Oh yeah, the little video that I made, yeah. So yeah, I'm just gonna kind of drive around and just show how beautiful and huge this world is while we're talking. So, by the way, you mentioned the Xbox Wire interview. A bunch of people in the chat are actually recognizing you from that interview that you did. They're like, oh, I know her. That's Wonder Russell. And they're getting all excited to see you. So, hello, chat.
Hi, friends.
Wonder is famous.
No, it's the dogs that are famous. I have this puppy in my lap.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's be honest. It's all about the babies.
All right, so so we built a lot of stuff to sort of to share with people. You know, people who are watching the stream right now, they're probably aware of the stuff we've already done on the stream. You know, the tours that we've done of the map, talking with Andy about the story, and we've got more of these planned going forward. But we've also built some sort of like some pre-recorded, beautifully edited trailers and stuff like that for to let people know what's going into this game. Like we had the one that launched at Gamescom, which we've actually been working on for a really, really long time in the background.
Yeah, that one actually was done remarkably early because of just scheduling that we ended up having and working with the vendor who had their own scheduling. So yeah, that was done, I'd say, earlier this summer, and really it was just kind of waiting. But Alan should talk about the trailer that we did that launched today, sort of our launch day. Hey, it's out now.
Yeah, Alan, do you want to give people? So I'm about to show the trailer, but Alan, do you want to give people sort of a little bit of a preview of sort of what the purpose of what the idea was behind this trailer and sort of the work that went into making this little live action teaser that we've got?
Yeah, totally. We used to make these kind of fun live action trailers back in the day before COVID. If you remember, we had one for, I think that was the kind of the cow pig mask. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Yeah. We released that. We also did something for the outfit changing. You could switch outfits on your survivors.
Was that the one where was it Noel that was like trying on a bunch of different outfits?
Absolutely. the Oscar-nominated Noel. He was our guy doing that. And he did a great job. And we used him again for this little live action trailer. His hand is what is actually the zombie
I didn't recognize his hand. It usually is buried in my computer when something goes wrong. So.
Yeah, he's effective as an actor. He gets into the role that you just can't remember. So I think the real goal was to just kind of create like a kind of fun supplement to all the other fun stuff that we're doing. That's just kind of I just love doing live action stuff. Again, I work on a lot of live action stuff on the side, and I always have there's always something fun to see that, not just another kind of fun, cool, awesome action game trailer, which are great, but also something to kind of supplement that's just kind of nerdy and fun. And that's what kind of went with this.
Yeah, one thing that, for folks who know Alan, it's like there's nobody I think who's sort of has a better encyclopedic knowledge of like kitschy old cool stuff from different decades. Like I don't know, whenever there's something like that, you're the one I usually go to if I want to find out, sort of what's cool about something that I don't even recognize from the 80s because I was a small child. You'll know all about it. I think you leaning into sort of that understanding of old nostalgia and kitsch was a lot of what made this trailer work really well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the vibe of this. And again, this was meant to be a tease. And again, it's just to get you excited. I think, it's just you're like, it's just a one camera move out, you're just dollying out, and it's also created. The idea of it was just created because I thought, I don't even know if I can leave my house. I mean, a lot of these ideas are the indie filmmaker way of like, it's one shot, we can move it back and it shows a thing and you're done, right? Just because that's all we can do, right? I was going to have my wife be the hand. There's stuff like that, but luckily Talk Wonder, we were able to get, Microsoft actually helped us build a little set actually over at their studio. So that whole set in that shot we straight up built that, went to Goodwill, bought some stuff, and this was over a course of 2 days.
I was gonna ask you, let me show this real quick so we can actually get into some of the details of how this thing was put together, because I was fascinated by that. I had no idea how you put this thing together, and so I was really wanting to ask. Let's let the audience see what we're talking about so we can talk about some of these details. So let me. Where is my button for that? Here it is.
Right now, the entertainment event the whole family remembers all year long. The Trumbull County Fair. The most thrilling ride. The most fascinating Disney shows. 12 full days of fun starting with
So yeah, there was the teaser. So so let me just play this again real quick. I'll turn down the volume a little bit so we can talk. But so where did you get all of this footage? This is great. Like, I assume you didn't go out and shoot it someplace.
I wish. This is actually stock footage that I just went looking everywhere I could just to find some sort of like creepy stock footage that could work for this. It's surprising there's not a lot of footage of fair stuff, like fairground stuff that I could find. I even wanted clowns. I couldn't even find clowns.
You couldn't find footage of clowns? I guess people are just too scared of them.
I couldn't find footage of clowns, which was really getting me sad and depressed. You know, I really want a creepy clown in there. But we found this footage. It was actually edited like this, and I kind of liked how edited it was. It was just kind of roughly put together. And I think that's kind of the vibe of it we wanted to feel. That was like a small town. I come from a small town in Wisconsin. You can hear it in my accent. That these commercials back then, they threw stuff together and they put crappy graphics on the screen. They don't have any graphic designers. The kind of vibe that I think in Trumbull Valley, that, you know, it was a small town. Maybe they had some guy who made this commercial for this local county fair. And it was just playing. And I was gonna go crazy and put graphics all over it and make it even more cheesy. But the more I put into it, the more it looked like it was to someone who knew what they're doing, if that makes sense. You had to almost pull back and just say, it's just this text and it does that and it doesn't match there and here, and it kind of fit better. So that's kind of the idea of that. And then the idea of the zombie hand. And then on the table, if you look in the environment, there actually is there's a little survivor on top of the TV, the actual survivor light that survivors have.
Okay.
There's actually the actual model that we modeled it after, that is on the characters in the game.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so did we like scan or just use that thing for reference when we were actually building their lights, and now it's just sitting there in the real world, right up there? You can see
asked one of the concept artists for it, what it was, and I bought it, and then I kind of roughed it all up and made it, you know, look as close as I could to it. And there's also just like fun props, like there's cool, like, you know, overgrowth that came in that Wonder brought in. She kind of we called it clean garbage to put her on the set, because we couldn't put real garbage everywhere in Microsoft. I'm sure they'd hate that. So we put just trash everywhere we could. We bought these, you know, really cheesy looking, you know, wood 70s, you know, cabinets to hold the TV. The TV was probably the hardest part to get. Wonder and me were looking everywhere for an old CTR that could do this. We could just put this on.
Megan actually found it in like a local Buy Nothing group, and which was kind of amazing, and then was able to pick it up. And she also designed the ticket that the zombie is holding.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Fun fact about the zombie is he also works at Undead Labs. That's Noel, and he's the guy in our outfits trailer when we first came out with the outfits update that he's changing you know, into all his different outfits. So he's reprising his role as
I guess he's a zombie now. He wasn't a zombie back then, but he is now.
Now he's a zombie. I mean, that's how it works.
The ongoing saga, yeah. So and also, if you all want to meet Noel, we actually did a stream where he was our guest. If you look for like look up IT on our channel, he's our IT guy, and you'll totally see you get to meet the guy. He's fascinating to talk to. So definitely spend some time looking at that. So was all this? You said this is like built on a soundstage. Is that what happened?
Yes, correct. If you see the one of our dev videos, I think the one before for the last update, if I'm correct. We have a talking head video, we call it.
Right.
Where, you know, you talk
I was in that room.
You were in it, I believe.
It was that room?
I think you're actually in that room. That is the room. Yeah. So that exact space is what we made this.
So I sat in here trying to sell water to the audience. This exact same space.
Yeah,
and he just dressed it up to look completely different. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. And a lot of that is, you know, and that's lighting. Another thing is, you know, key is, you know, I worked with another person there, and we were just lighting all day. Most of the time is us just getting it lit right to make it have that vibe from a screenshot. We actually just took a reference of a screenshot I took, and just trying to recreate that lighting in this feel of a midday afternoon, not midday, later in the day, the sun's kind of coming through, that vibe of a kind of dirty house, like all that smoke and steam. That's like 4 canisters of air that we were shooting through the air that Wonder was doing, I was doing. We were both kind of spraying it because we couldn't even put a fog machine in the studio there. So
I was wondering about
like
that. Yeah, because that's not what you know it usually looks like inside of a room, but with sort of the fog coming in, but it makes it feel so atmospheric and so dusty. It's like I can feel like I can breathe the dust of this old room by watching with the lights streaming through the air.
That's the cinematic stuff. That's the juice that makes everything cinematic, is that kind of, you know, haze that they call it. You put it in everything. So.
The haze was great, and the blinds are actually picked up by Media Lab. Got them at Goodwill, and then dragged them around in the parking lot to make them look really beat up, so it would have that feeling of one of the abandoned houses in the game. Yeah, so I love that you didn't recognize it, Geoffrey.
Oh, yeah, no, of course. Yeah, that's great. I had no idea that's where you had done this. That's great. So it's so fun to, like, you know, again, a lot of this stuff, it's really easy for it to sort of just disappear into the background when you're an audience member and say, oh, yeah, they went to a place in the zombie apocalypse and shot this. But no, like, every detail of this had to be thought through. Like I said, dragging them around in the parking lot. You couldn't just put the blinds up. You had to make them look messed up in exactly the right way. And so some of the solutions are fairly simple, but you have to think them through and you have to actually do them in order to create an atmosphere like that.
Yeah, and the behind there, those are 2 LCDs that are lighting the scene. Actually, those windows, those are 2 TVs that are actually with a sunset we put on the display, so it creates that kind of sun.
There's not even like lights back there; it's televisions.
There's 2 televisions. Those are televisions that are made to look like windows. Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So lots of fun stuff. The makeup on the hand, Wonder actually did that. We just got something off Amazon. We're not makeup artists. She put it together, it looked great. You know, we get the lighting. We just one angle we couldn't do because it showed it's his hand a little bit more. So his hand's kind of floating in the frame a little more than I kind of wanted. I wanted him a little bit more in there, but we have to kind of angle it so it looks as best as we can get it for that type of stuff, because we were using one big camera slide. So I was just pulling the camera back, and then the actor kind of moves into the frame as much as he can. And that's kind of how we did that. And we actually tried to shoot blood on the hand at the end. That was the other. We kind of wanted a kind of fun, like, moment to happen at the end of that trailer instead of just the howl. We kind of wanted blood to fall across the thing, but Wonder was like trying it, and she's like, this is just too thick. And she's like throwing the blood on it, and it was hilarious. I think we have an outtake which is like splattering really weird on there, but
good outtake.
Yeah, blood is hard to work with at times on films. I've had blood shot on me on films I've worked on before and all over my camera, so this isn't anything new. It's just we're like, yeah, it works. So
it's so cool to see sort of like the amount of for even just a trailer that is this short and this simple, the amount of sort of love and care that goes into this. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about working on this team is the fact that, you know, nothing is slapdash. Like we put so much time and care into each little detail of something like this. There's somebody, you know, when you watch something like this, it can pass by you really fast, but a lot of love goes into this work. I'm so glad that you gave the audience a tour of what actually went into this, because it is just fascinating to hear about. I should actually pull Joe in because we should talk about the other sort of bit of like kind of teaser media that we created, which was really originally his idea. Joe, do you want to give people sort of a rundown of, actually, you know what? Let me just show this broadcast and then we'll talk to Joe about it. This is one of our Desi broadcasts.
CQ, Whiskey Alpha 7, Charlie Oscar Lima. Okay, folks. If you're returning to Trumbull Valley, you are not alone. From what I can tell, everybody's been poking around there. From Red Talon and the network to maybe the actual army. People are going back to the valley. But I'll be here, listening, and sharing information on what happened. Stay safe. Wasp 7 Cool out.
So that is the 13th of a series of videos. That's the one that was just released today, sort of with this character Desi giving people some hints about what's going on in Trumbull Valley. Joe, do you want to sort of talk a little bit about where this came from, like where the inception of this idea was?
So I think it was back in June. We were talking about what it is that we wanted to, how we wanted to tease this content. And I was like, you know, what would be really fun is what Megan came up with. Was she actually came up with this idea where we would have like this social media thing or some sort of like Twitter back and forth, right? Where, you know, something to do with our social media. I don't remember what the original inception was.
Talking to each other or something like that. You wanted to have some kind of
kind of, and then I kind of went forward with that a little bit. I was like, let's just make it a full-on Twitter flame war. And so I wrote the first draft, and my first feedback was, this is a little too catty, Joe. You're a little too spot on for how toxic Twitter can be. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then Wander was like, so what if we just made it like, maybe it's just like some kind of a radio broadcast thing, you know, kind of like we have in the rest of the game. And I was like, oh crap, we could do like ham radio operators. And so I did a little bit of YouTube searching for like what it takes to do some basic ham radio operation and what people sound like when they're sort of speaking over ham radio. You keep it short. You know, you use the and this is where sort of the intro of each one came in. Is that there are certain like country codes, there are certain codes that countries get, and like W, A, B, a bunch of those are like U.S. specific. And so I was like, okay, so these folks were ham radio operators. They're gonna have a call sign if they have a ham radio, because they lived before, you know, the whole apocalypse went down. And so I came up with this call sign. WA is within the US. 7 means that it's in the Pacific Northwest. And then the COL, I wanted to put it pretty firmly. There are a lot of towns in the Pacific Northwest that start with those 3 letters. And so I wanted to put it firmly in here without necessarily naming the town.
That's a
and so
pretty
I
clever
came
idea.
up so I came up with the call sign. Still planting Desi very firmly here in the Pacific Northwest, and keeping our theme of it could be anywhere up here for our maps and for our story, keeping that in the forefront of my mind. And then I started trying to write okay, so each one needed to tease a specific piece of content that's actually in the Trumbull Valley story stuff. And so I started breaking it down, and I sat down with Andy, and we went over what are the things that need to be teased, how can I approach this, and then I started writing the dialogue after having come up with the character. And then Andy, of course, being a fastidious writer, was like, I need more about this character. I need more in this dialogue. We need less here. And it was just super awesome going through that creative process with him.
Yeah, there's a lot of players from the first time these broadcasts started showing up who was like, who's Desi? Who's Desi? Who's Desi? And I love the fact that you two put so much work into sort of fleshing this character out. And by the time you've watched all 13 broadcasts, you do kind of have a sense of who Desi is.
Yeah, she's just kind of this person that's out there kind of living alone, is very happy to be living alone, but you know, she still wants some of that interpersonal relationship. And now that, you know, we don't know where the internet went, the ham radio, the ham radio coming up was awesome. Some other things, Alan is the one who came up with some of the video parts. Like the wonderful
the glitchiness.
Nope, that was actually Megan.
Okay, cool.
But this wonderful shot of this ham radio, like it's just sitting here, Alan actually built that.
What?
Inside? Yeah, he built that inside of Unreal and then took those shots.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it was super awesome. And Megan saw this, and so she was like, would this work? And we put up and when the little sporadic going in and out of focus thing, and the numbers that you see, the green numbers that you see in the background, that was Megan's work. And so this whole process just has been a huge collaboration for a lot of people who are very passionate about this game and very passionate about this project. I won't say much more because I don't. But even working with the voice actor that we had, who is one of my favorite content creators, we may release that name later, or some of you may already know. But anyway, it was really fun just sitting down with her and doing a reading of the script once we had it somewhat finalized. And then helping her to get a sense for who Desi was or is, and the direction we were going with the broadcast in general. So it's super awesome seeing just how much of the community, not just inside, but outside of Undead Labs, helped us bring this all together. And that's who we're doing it for, is the folks outside of the lab. And it's super awesome to see how excited they are.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about the way that stories are told in State of Decay is the fact that we don't tend to just sit down with you, open up a book, and tell you a story. Like this game is much more about sort of creating a world through sort of hints and sort of nudging you in one direction or another, and then the world sort of the story kind of comes together in your head as a result of all of these different pieces that sort of come together. So each of these pieces, is people spend a lot of time and effort sort of creating each of them, specifically thinking of how is this going to come together to create this sort of final whole that you put together in your own head as a combination of all of the things you're hearing over the radio, all the things you're observing in the world, the discoveries that you're finding, and then the experiences that you have yourself, what you and your characters do, and what happens to your own people. All of that kind of comes together to create this world and this story that really exists much more in your mind than it does in any piece of media. And so, but it's kind of cool because we're not, because most of what we're working with is hints. It means that each of those little hints can get a lot of love and care from all of this huge variety of individuals who are all contributing to it. So, yeah,
and that is one of the things that I've really appreciated about this opportunity to tell this story, is not just that like I get to tell the story, ha 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 ha, but it's more like, how do you tell this story in such a way that feels authentically like you're in the world, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that, while I love zombie fiction, one of the things that annoys me the most is when people start explaining the zombies, where they came from, or like, this is all because of lunar vibrations or whatever, like toxic lunar vibrations. Like it's ridiculous. Like that's when you lose me, right? As long as there's a mystery, as long as there's some mystery, like your average survivor is never going to find out where this stuff came from. And the story is very much more about the community and the survivors that are in it than it is about, where did this come from?
Yeah, exactly. Like we're much more interested in telling a story about survival and like what people are capable of doing under like the most dire of circumstances, rather than sort of a mystery story about some clever idea we had about how zombies might work. It's like we do have clever ideas like that feel very good to us, but we're probably not quite as clever as we think we are. And if we actually told you all of the thoughts in our heads, most of you would be like, that's kind of lame. But that's that's not what we're doing.
Exactly.
We don't want to tell that.
Exactly. But I do want to make sure that everybody who helped in any way, shape, or form what we had and then what we came up with those Desi broadcasts gets a big thank you. I think I've named everybody. If I've missed anybody, I'm really, really sorry.
I would shout out Andy too, and just as our time is coming to a close, also just remind people that we have another trailer coming live right after the live stream, so stick around. And that will have its premiere afterward. It's Ray Santos welcoming you to Trumbull Valley, shouting out Andy on the team just because he's the narrative director and is responsible for so many of the stories that you see in Trumbull Valley, and then was really helpful in kind of guiding our team working on, well, how do we keep expanding the lore and and share the stories.
Yeah, so actually, real quick, because before other folks get in here, I think Mark has already joined us, but before Dan gets in here, do you want to sort of give people a little bit of a preview of sort of this additional trailer that we've yet to show you? What this one is there to do, why we made this one in addition to all of these others?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, Ray Santos is, a long-standing character in the game, and he is really kind of giving you a tour, a welcome to, like, hey, welcome home, welcome to my valley. He's kind of like the guardian of Trumbull Valley after Lily left. So the tour kind of takes you around to some of the landmarks that are new in Trumbull Valley and kind of gets you some hints about where stories may be going or what characters you will encounter and how things may have shifted since the events of Heartland. So especially, it might be helpful, if you haven't played the first game, if you haven't played the Heartland campaign, this might be a good place to start.
Yeah, because we know that like there are some players who have spent a lot of time in their lives in Trumbull Valley, and there's some players who have spent very little. And some of the players who who played in Trumbull Valley, the last time they played there was in like 2013. And so we wanted to make sure that people had enough of a reminder to like let them to sort of bring them up to speed and remind them, hey, this is what's going on in this valley. This is what you already remember from your past experiences here, so that they can sort of be up to speed as they're sort of getting started with some of these stories. So it's a really great sort of primer, but it also sort of sets the tone and the atmosphere for the story and what it's about. So I'm looking forward to people seeing it. That is going to premiere at 3 o'clock right after this stream is done. So Wonder, thank you so much for coming here and telling people about all the work that you did leading up to this update.
It's always a team effort. It's always a pleasure. I mean, really, we're here to amplify the amazing work that the studio does, and you guys make our jobs easy.
I should also say goodbye to Joe. Joe, do you want to say goodbye to the audience?
Well, of course I do, Geoffrey. I like having my face on screen too. But anyway, no, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting us and allowing us to do what we love, and showing us the same amount of love over the course of this whole pandemic that we hope that you guys understand. Anyway,
yeah, and so
since Brant's not here to show the love today because he's off doing Brant things, I just want to make sure that everybody knows we love you, we appreciate you, and thank you.
And I should also mention that Joe is going to be hosting our next stream that we do on our normal. It's not going to be on our normal time. It's going to be about a week from today, next Wednesday at 3. Joe's going to be hosting a tour of the bases of Trumbull Valley. So if you're looking for some strategy and some updates about that, he and Lucy and Brant are going to give us a tour. Let's also say goodbye to Alan. Alan, you want to say goodbye to the audience?
Bye, everyone.
And it's that simple. Okay, so we've also got the team that put together our new bounty pack, which also released on the same day, the Trifecta Pack. We have got, oh, look, it's Larry Wu. Oh, and it's Mark Lautenbach. They're just cascading in like an avalanche. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself to the audience, as though most of them don't already know you?
Hello.
That is.
Oh, my head is gigantic.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit more zoomed in than I usually am in order to sort of. There's complicated Google Meet reasons why I had to do it this way. So Mark is an artist. He built a lot of sort of the elements of the environment in this map, but also a lot of the weapons, and was one of the major sort of minds behind the Trifecta Pack. I should also introduce Dan Mode, I believe, is here. He's another artist that worked on this.
Hey everybody, happy homecoming.
There is Dan Mode.
Hope you guys enjoyed the update.
Dan was the lead of the team that put together a lot of our new content, not just the Trifecta Pack, but a lot of the new content that appeared exclusive to Trumbull Valley. And another person who did a lot of this, who had a lot to do with the loot in Trumbull Valley, is Larry Wu. Larry, you showed up a second ago, but do you want to say hi to the audience?
Hi, everyone.
There's Larry Wu. So yeah, so Larry was involved in not only designing the bounties and putting together the pack and sort of tuning the weapons on the design side. He also handled the loot for Trumbull Valley, the distribution of plague hearts, and had a lot of problems to solve in the wake of my work on the missions. Larry kept having to clean up the messes that I made behind myself. So we can get into that a little bit later. But let me get back into the gameplay view, because I'm playing the wrong character right now. We have got a new bounty pack that launched today, September 1st, called the Trifecta Pack. And let me switch to one of my community members who is wearing some stuff from the Trifecta Pack, and have Mark maybe give us a little bit of a sense of where the idea for this pack came from, because I believe it started with you, didn't it, Mark?
I mean, it was a group effort, but I mean, there's 12 months in a year, and we had 11 packs. So this is the 12th of those packs, and we wanted to do something a little bit different. And we're like, what do we do? What do we do? What are we going to do? Because it's really hard to find 12 weapons we don't already have and put them in a theme, because each pack has a certain theme. And so we kept on thinking of a bunch of stuff. It's like, oh man, I really want to do that, but I also really want to do that. I'm like, let's do all of them. And so we picked kind of 3 different themes. Like, let's have them all work together. So if you put them all at the same time, they would look really cool as a package deal. And so that is what we did.
Yeah, so right here, this character that I just switched to, she is carrying the gear from the Hard Candy Pack. So let's talk about this this bat right here. What is? I wish I could get close enough to show you what it looks like. But it's actually themed based on one of our community members, and it's got some just what's going on here, Mark?
So a surprisingly large amount of people love purple. Purple is their favorite color of all time. And as far as I know, there's very little purple in our game as far as the weapons are concerned. It's not a common weapon color. So I decided to, like everyone likes purple, they've got a bat just for them. It is studded with studded pet collars for more damage.
I forgot those were pet collars. I remember that from the beginning, but I just started thinking of them as regular spikes. You're right, they're pet collars. Oh, that's adorable.
So I can imagine someone like, got into a pet supply store and just, went nuts. It happened to be next to a athletic supply store.
Oh.
And so this is their crazy apocalyptic bat that happens to be very bright purple, and also has our Aberdeen name, as does the ice axe.
So okay, yeah. So Aberdeen is one of our favorite sort of like community members, content creators, and so she's got her name on this bat. It's also I can't really look at the end of the bat, but it's got a beautiful little cat face on it. And there's just like so many little details on this bat that are just beautiful to behold. And that's actually one of the like hallmarks of the hard candy pack is that there's just so many tiny little details on these weapons. Like you can see with the assault rifle here, which is called what was the assault rifle called? The Mob Stopper.
Mob Stopper.
The everlasting Mob Stopper. So this it's covered with all these little stickers and things. Like tell me about this gun and its little sister here.
So the Mob Stopper, I figured someone who is a little bit too excited for the zombie apocalypse, and so this is their baby. This is what they love, and they've got stickers all over it, and it's they just rattle canned it pink and just started putting stickers. It's got some like RAF stickers on there. It's got Bronto gas sticker on there.
I recognize that
one. Just a bunch of like kind of post-apocalyptic themed stickers on there. It's got a Band-Aid on the stock.
Oh, of course it does.
It's just insane. And it's super short. It's got a huge mag, just so you could just unleash hell, and that's their thing.
Yeah, sweet.
And same with the sidearm, the Mac 11, which is the jawbreaker, and it actually has a little jaw on it, like the old airplanes, like the Spitfires and stuff.
Oh yeah, and I can't see it here, but let me see if I can see it on your hip. Yeah, it's like a little shark. You can kind of see it's a little shark there.
Yeah, it's got a little shark mouth on it, and it also has 88 for a couple of our fans, Court 88. Yeah, and so they were very helpful in helping me decide what these guns would be about and what would be most suited for some of the fans.
Cool. And then of course they all come with this backpack. So each one of these, and we should really highlight this, that each one of these packs, these collections of items, comes with 4 things. It comes with a melee weapon, it comes with a sidearm, it comes with a primary weapon, and it comes with a backpack. And so this backpack was actually made by our character artist. Is that right?
And they're all designed to kind of be as though one person collected these things, and that's their deal.
Yeah, and the deal with these,
you don't have to, but they look good next to each other.
So these backpacks are not the highest capacity backpack you can possibly have, but they are very light, and so they won't contribute very much to your weight. So even though you can't carry quite as much as you could carry in the biggest, heaviest hiking pack, they still give you an advantage if you want to sort of run around and have and have free reign of the place.
And if you're a fan of marathon, you got something for you there.
So let's move on. I wonder, maybe we can get Dan to tell us a little bit about the next set of weapons, because this is the race guns, the sort of competition pack of weapons.
Yes, I know we have a community of folks that like the pack light, so a lot of them have lightweight accoutrement and decals on them to keep them often used by 3-gun competitions, things like that.
So these are guns that you can move fast in. They're very light. They're cut down.
Yeah, they have compensators on them, extended magazines. And one of the things we heard from a lot of the community is that they wanted to have a shared ammo type. So both with the primary and secondary weapon, this both runs 9mm.
Oh yeah, you can see that in my inventory right there. That yeah, I just carry one ammo type for both of these types of guns. So basically, you know, you can just run this gun out of ammo, then quickly switch to the other one. But you don't have to carry two independent stacks of ammo to reload them, which is really nice and convenient. Especially now that we can carry deeper stacks of ammo. If you've got an assault specialist, they can carry one really deep stack of this ammo and keep both of their guns fed.
Yeah, you're gonna need a lot of 9mm to keep both of these fed. The Checkmate has a 26 round magazine, and the MPX has a 40 round magazine.
Wait, this little gun is a 26 round magazine? That is amazing. And you said 40 for this one. Wow, yeah. So basically, that's an entire stack of 9mm. If you don't have the assault skill going into this one. And then, what is this melee weapon? Tell me about this thing, because it does feel thematically like it really fits in, but finding a melee weapon that goes specifically with a gun-focused theme was probably a bit of a challenge.
So a lot of the folks that would be tinkering with these types of things would need certain special tools to be able to adjust and remove parts and swap them out for better parts. So this is a armorer's wrench. We probably doubled it in size to make it a formidable melee weapon. But it's got this cool little like brass end point on the end of it that really catches the eye, and it cracks some skulls.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you got the little brass, and the whole thing has got a really unique shape to it. It really makes it sort of like stand out in your hand. It's all the other sort of hammers and clubs and blades and things we have. Like you can really tell you've got this one and not another thing.
Yeah, we definitely wanted the colors and themes to stand out between each other, but also give players a new kind of style for their weapons.
So, and then rounding out the set, we've got Kyle here, who's carrying, what did we call this? Was it the filigree? Or was it the precious metals? It's a precious metals set, right?
The precious metals set, yeah.
So you can see, it looks like a normal weapon. Let me see if I can catch the sun with this thing, because it is.
Yeah, we need light.
Yeah, I need to be out in the bright sun. I might need to pick a different time of day. Just a little. There we go. Look at that gold. Oh, it's so beautiful. So this is like one of those classic, just crazy, over-decorated AK-47s. Am I remembering that right? That's an AK-47?
Yeah, and Mark can talk a little bit more about it. He did a lot of the filigree and the custom red dot sight on the top.
Yeah, you can see that thing really glowing.
Yeah, this thing is supposed to be for someone who's had some wins. They've got a bit of money and they want to show it off. We haven't had an AK without a stock, so I did that. And it's also got a ridiculous drum magazine because this is a ridiculous gun.
That thing is
for
huge.
a ridiculous person.
How many bullets does that hold? 50 bullets. Nice.
I think it's 50, yeah. And it is ornate from tip to toe, and it is it's crazy. And I love it because it's so gaudy and awful. It's even got a gold sight on it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because
so it's not
they
just
had the entire thing just plated.
It's not just glowing red; it's also gold. And then you've got this sucker right here, this insane revolver. Let me see if I can sort of capture it on my hip here. Look at that thing. It's just mostly gold, ornate, and like I don't know if you can really see it, especially with the quality of the stream. The sheer amount of detail that has gone into this gold filigree here on the sort of the body and the barrel of this gun, and even like even like embossed on the leather handle. What have you been doing, Mark? This is crazy.
That's all Brant.
That
is
Brant?
Brant's baby. He went insane on that one, and he just let his flag fly. And that gun is a thick boy, and it is super cool looking. It is huge, and it is super cool.
Oh, and look at that thing. Look at how it kicks. This thing is just insane. And then,
and this is something that the owner of the AK would definitely have as a backup.
Yeah, totally. And then we've got this this golden kukri right here, which you can, once I stop swinging it, you can kind of probably see it sheathed next to my backpack. Look at that thing. It's like, so you've got the silver blade, but then this gold inlay stuff along the side of the blade. It's like two different metals. Looks like a very fancy coin. It just makes you think of money.
It's got a Damascus steel blade, which anyone who's watched Forged in Fire is familiar with. And I've watched a couple episodes and taken some cues. And so, yeah, it's got, a pinned handle and it's got some copper bits on there. We tried to put as many different metals as possible that Rose would handle. Yeah, it is definitely a companion piece for the other two.
And then this backpack too it's got some such, it's one of our backpacks. We've got several like this that have very intricate patterns that a lot of the time you don't get close enough to see. Like we've got some that even have like Hieronymus Bosch paintings on them, and this one is in that category of very ornate special backpacks.
Yeah, this would be made out of fine leather, intricately stitched. I haven't taken a close look, but I think it's got kind of a, you know, like a Louis Vuitton would have your logo.
Oh yeah, it's got this little shiny.
All the way across
it's almost like a hood ornament on the back of your car.
Yeah, it's supposed to be for a very stylish, fancy individual. And that's it.
So, Larry, we haven't talked to you in a bit. So it was up to you to sort of work these all out into a set of bounties that players can actually use to unlock them. And I don't know, like, do you have a favorite one of these that you want to sort of I don't know, talk to us about, or anything about that process?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the process of making the bounties is pretty fun, I think, just because like we're trying to thematically connect a task to the visuals of the guns themselves, and so being able to do that with the backpacks, requiring you to collect resources, but like some of them are a little more challenging. It's like, how do you make a bounty that reflects kind of like gaudy, rich, precious metals guns? And I think what we came up with was like them costing an arm and a leg, and so you collecting the arms and legs of the zombies you go after. So each one of them, yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite bounty themes that we've come up with lately. That's really cool. But working on these bounties, it's not actually the only thing you did to contribute to Update 26. I'm actually standing here next to the old veterinary clinic, this is a major landmark from the original State of Decay. One of the first places you ever loot once you sort of get hooked up with your community. And I won't get into details about what goes on in the missions, but one of your missions, like we do this all over the place throughout the missions in Trumbull Valley, is trying to take you back to these landmarks. But we ran into a bug recently, and I could have brought this up when we had the QA team on here too, where you're going in this nice normal mission. It's supposed to be kind of reminiscent of that early mission where you're clearing zombies from this site and trying to, you know, scavenge here with a familiar character. But one of the times when we ran into it, there was actually a plague heart in the middle of this building, and that's one of the problems. Like when we decided that we were going to tell a very specific story in Trumbull Valley, because like we did in the original State of Decay, in addition to the normal sort of randomly generated story content that usually appears in these maps, that added some extra complications to the process of trying to distribute plague hearts throughout the map, which is one of your jobs.
Yeah, but I think one of the really cool things about this map I found was that there are these like focused city centers in different areas of the map. There's like the Marshall, Fairfield, and Spencer's Mill. And so it kind of created this like natural clustering of the plague hearts in a really almost like intellectual way where, it created these strategies that you could have where you would like stay away from the city centers, which is like very real to the zombie fantasy, or you could like try to delve in there, but the danger there was very compact and constant.
And so that it means that, you know, because everything is so like clustered in this map, that you could actually probably had I imagine almost an easier time covering more of the sort of key territory with a smaller number of plague hearts than you could in sort of our more sort of drawn out, spread out maps like say Meager Valley.
Right. Yeah, and it creates like a fun pace to the game too, where it's like when you're ready to take on a plague heart on this map, it's rarely one plague heart. You have to be like ready to take on a bunch. But then once you do that, you have a nice peaceful looting session where like you've cleared out a large area for a span of time.
Yeah, and so you go to a place like Marshall. I mean, even though, you know, we've aged the map, and we've basically the story of this map, it takes place after Heartland, after the Gauntlet has been destroyed and cleared out. But that Gauntlet, the area that was, you know, basically completely infested by plague, because of the way we distribute play cards into these city centers, you actually kind of can have an experience in Marshall that's very reminiscent of when it was completely taken over by the plague in Heartland. It's regular old play cards, but you can still feel just completely overwhelmed by that place. Right now I'm playing in the green zone, so I've only just got the one play card over here. But when people play this game in Lethal, they're going to see what Marshall can turn into.
Yeah, for sure. And on top of that, like, I think a lot of players have already noticed this map is way bigger than previous maps that have come out in terms of like size, but also the number of sites that are on it. I think they're like 25 to 30% more.
That's right. Yeah, one of the things that one of the jobs that you took on for Update 26 was naming all of these sites. So we started with Heartland, and so Heartland had a bunch of these sites already had names from Heartland, but we were expanding into Fairfield, we were expanding up here, and also just making changes here and there throughout the map, opening up new areas that had been previously mostly dominated by plague. And so like, do you want to sort of tell the audience a little bit about like what the process is of sort of going through a map and figuring out what to call all these places?
And that's actually really fun. You get to basically like play the game, drive around to every place that doesn't have a name, and like think as a zombie survivor, like what would I call this place if I had to communicate it to the rest of my community in terms of like as a meeting place. I think that's the general rule we use when we talk about a place. Like, how could I communicate basically like the color, the size, the exact type of building, and then some like have really cool art pieces around them. Like I think one had like
You got the house with the fancy fence right here.
Yeah, and there's like ones with like corpses and rocking chairs on them, and then there's like a corpse-strewn hospital and stuff. So being able to like think in terms of like, how would a character quickly communicate these places is really fun.
I've got this zombie trying to get in here, so I gotta deal with that. Cool. So so we are starting to come to the end of this, but maybe let me see if there's any last questions from the audience. It looks like we've got a couple that I missed out on so far. Eric Fisher wants to know how much, if any, of the items being discussed are found on the other maps or in the Heartland campaign. So there is, and we're not getting into detail about a lot of the sort of the sort of dedicated loot that appears in Trumbull Valley because we've got an entire stream planned about that. Another one with Dan and Mark later on this month. But I wonder if you wanted to talk a little bit, Larry, about sort of the thought process we had for like. Trying to make the looting experience in Trumbull Valley unique, compared to the other maps.
Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a stream about this later, but the discovery system is like something completely new to the Faustite map and allows for more specific loot placement, more than like we've been able to do on any other map. And so we can really give specific places on the map a feel. I won't spoil where any of those places are, but we're able to kind of like really get deeper into the environmental storytelling and have a systemic experience for the players.
Yeah, one of the things, like one of the sort of memorable looting experiences in Providence Ridge, for instance, was the enigmatic axe, which was found at this sort of like weird Shaggy Jack cult site. And we only did one thing like that in Providence Ridge because actually we didn't have features and systems in the game that were well designed to support that kind of thing. I think that Brian Giammi had to like twist the loot system way out of shape to try to make that happen, try to make a specific thing appear in a specific container, because that's not what our loot system is built for. It's built to be surprising, and so, but in this case, we've actually got sort of a lot of unique pieces of content and unique like guns and weapons and notes and items that are they're distributed to very specific spots, so you can kind of have those locations tell a story the way the enigmatic axe did, but in a much more consistent and more satisfying way. Characters can talk, that sort of thing. And let's see here. So we have another question from Sebastian Gonzalez, who says, "Can we transfer bounty items to new maps?" Yes. So the bounty packs, they're available for all of your, the bounty system is spread across all of your communities and any map that they might be on. You can unlock a gun while you're playing in Trumbull Valley, and then you can, grab that same gun for a community you have in a different map. The bounty system just spans everything. So don't worry that content is unique to Trumbull Valley, though we do have other stuff that we're going to get into later that is unique. Certain, and you can look through patch notes if you want to have a quick rundown of that, of all the different things you can find in this map, between outfits, guns, notes, pieces, pieces of storyline. It's all over the place. But it is now 2:55, and so we should probably start wrapping this up because we've got a premiere of our new Ray Santos trailer that's coming at 3 o'clock. We want to make sure we're on time for that. So, Larry, thank you so much for coming here and giving the audience some insights into the work that you were doing in Trumbull Valley, and thank you for everything that you did.
Of course, thanks for having me on the stream, and thanks all the players for playing.
Dan Moe, do you want to say goodbye to the audience too? Where did Dan go?
Bye, guys.
There he is.
I have to unmute my mic.
Well, that was very kind of you, but yeah, thank you for everything. I mean, leading this team that put together not only the content we just showed in the bounty pack, but also all of the unique, weapons and items and outfits and things like that are showing up on this map for the very first time. Thank you for your leadership and for all of the work that you did to make this stuff happen.
Thanks, Geoffrey. I had a good time making it, and look forward to talking to you guys about the more content that we have up ahead.
Yeah.
So,
and then Mark,
see you soon.
Mark, thank you so much for the inspiration behind the Trifecta Pack and all the work you put into that, as well as everything that you did to put this map together. It's really gorgeous stuff.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it is again a love letter to all the fans. Hopefully, everyone will just dig into it, find all the secret stuff because there is a ton of secret stuff. And just thank you for everyone for just providing just a great job.
All right, and with that, I think we're going to start winding down to the end of this. So, like I said when I was talking to Joe Smorner, he is going to be hosting another stream a week from today on Wednesday. We're skipping the usual Monday because that's going to be Labor Day, and we don't want to make a bunch of people work on that day. So if you come back September 8th at the usual time, 3 o'clock, you're going to get a breakdown of all 6 of our new bases. You're going to have Joe there to talk about strategy, Lucy there to talk about the design inspiration behind it, and Brant there to talk about the visual look of all these bases. So that's going to be a really good time. I know a bunch of people have already been exploring these bases out in the content creator sphere, and so it'll be great to get the input of the people who actually built those things. So definitely come back. And if you want to, always be notified when we're going live and streaming and when our videos come out, you should definitely subscribe to our channel. And so we're going to put up, YouTube buttons and clicky things and links here so you can follow those if you want to later on. And yeah, so I think when this wraps up, we'll go on to the trailer.